So goodbye for us. You have to say it, baby. And us in Texas, you wanna try, baby. I know you can, I know your heart, and you will figure out you love me now, 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 you know I gotta leave. You love me now, 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 you know I gotta leave.
I recently sold my only white diver, so I set about replacing it. Up popped this used one on an eBay auction, the Father's Horizon Procedure, although I'm not sure if the dial's actually white or silver. Now Father's is the brand, Horizon the range, and Procedure the colour option, which by the way is an Italian island. Father's is in actual fact a recent Italian microbrand started by two friends who happen to be fathers, but the watches are built in Switzerland. I'm a bit confused why they use the English word for the brand and not Padre, which is the Italian, and in my opinion may have sounded better. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Father's Horizon. Before I get started, I should tell you that whilst this watch isn't incredibly expensive, it isn't cheap either. They're available from their website, which I'll leave a link to, and will cost you £1,310. Add to that the 20% duty, and we're talking £1,572. I'm not sure if there is carriage on top of that, but the point of producing this video, you'll get a 10% discount if you sign up to their newsletter. Now whether or not you consider this watch worth the money, I'm going to leave that up to you, so keep watching. And for those interested, this is my watch of the day. It's a San Martin vintage pilot watch, and like all San Martin watches, it's finished to an incredible level, especially considering the price. And this is the box it came in. It's quite premium, it's got a nice felt-like texture. Inside are some instructions and a little leather wallet with a 2-year warranty card. So let's have a look at the dimensions, and these are my measurements. The case is 40mm, the lug width 20mm, the lug to lug 47.5mm, and the depth is 12.3mm, including a flat sapphire crystal with AR coating. And with all the bracelet links attached, it comes to about 156 grams. Now in my opinion, due to the rather deep bezel and as such a smaller dial, it wears more like a 39, which I think is a good thing. Inside the watch is a Sleater SW200 high beat automatic movement. I don't know which grade it is, as although I messaged the owners I had no reply. It ticks away at 28,800 beats per hour, it hacks and it hand winds, and it's got a power reserve of 38 hours. Now I've got this movement in several of my watches, and it's very reliable, and as long as it's regulated correctly can be very accurate, and it's got very good positional variance. I can tell you that in normal wear this is running at plus 12 seconds a day, but let's see how it performs on the time grapher. There we are, dial up on the time grapher. An excellent beat error, a very good amplitude. The rate is at the top end of my personal tolerance, but it's perfectly acceptable. The crown is one of the first things that will indicate you bought a watch of quality. It's signed, beautifully shaped, and screws down to aid its 200 metres of water resistant. The engagement is okay, but it's not buttery smooth. The case is almost solely AAA satin brushed, and believe me, the finishing is excellent. The only polishing is on the chamfers where the case transforms from the sides to the top. It's nicely shaped, but it's a shame Fathers didn't make it a little bit more interesting. Anyway, here's a picture of it sitting on the back of my 17cm wrist. The 6-screw caseback is gorgeous, and thank heavens they didn't go down the lines of an exhibition caseback. It's all brushed and it's deeply engraved with the father's logo and the same patterning as on the dial. There is some basic information engraved around the edges. Now this watch comes in several colours, but I consider myself lucky I've acquired the colour I most like from the selection, which again is the Procedure. The dial starts off with a fine minute track on the chapter ring. Now the dial itself is embossed using an oil press process and is absolutely gorgeous. Now under the 12 o'clock is the company logo, which I particularly like, and over the 6 o'clock it reads Horizon Automatic 200 metres. I love the fact the word Horizon is in red, as it adds a tasteful bit of colour. However, here is the elephant in the room. Have a look at the alignment. I'm not sure if the patterning is offset, the script is offset, or both, but in brief, it looks wonky. The tapered baton indices have blue surrounds, and there is a framed date window at the 6 o'clock. The partly hollowed out arrow and minute hands are quite original, whilst the second hand is fully loomed. On the subject of loom, well, it's C3 and very well applied to the indices. However, I can't say the same for the hands. I could still clearly see the indices after 8 hours in the dark, but the hands, just a couple. Anyway, this is the loom. Arguably, it isn't the watch's lovely dial that steals the day though. It may be the bezel. It's constructed of one piece of steel with a cut-out section left for the loom ceramic insert. It kind of reminds me of the one used on the Surica 5303. It's a scallop bezel, which I think makes a nice change. Unfortunately though, the shape of the bezel makes it quite hard to grip, and the bezel action isn't particularly consistent or tactile. I'm not going to turn it for you because unfortunately it's just too hard and I can't be bothered. Fortunately the alignment is absolutely spot on though. The bracelet is an oyster style, nicely rounded and very comfortable. Like the case, it's also AAA satin brushed and it feels like silk to the touch. Now it's got solid male end links, but unfortunately no quick release spring bars, which is a shame because there aren't any drilled lugs either. Now it tapers down from 20mm to 18mm, and for adjustment it's got a pin and collar system, which is a bit fiddly but I suppose secure. At this price though, I would have expected screw pins. The clasp is a tad disappointing, but not awful. It's very much like the one you find on a Yema or a Steinhardt, which by the way I've also criticised. It's a friction clasp. It's got 4 micro adjusts and a flip lock. It's signed and it does a job. I just think fathers could have done better. In summary, before I made this video, I contacted Ed, the previous owner, and was assured this is a production model, not a prototype. So let's get the moans and gripes out of the way first. 1. The clasp does a job, but when you're spending this sort of money, you just expect something a bit more premium. San Martin can put a well-engineered, on-the-fly clasp on a watch that costs $250, so think about it. 2. If you're going to make such a good job of applying loom on the indices, why forget the hands? 3. Surely producing a bezel with an even and tactile action can't be that hard. And 4. Finally, that wonky dial indicates that the QC isn't quite what it should be yet. Of course, there are many things to love about this watch. Despite the fact the dial isn't symmetrical, it's gorgeous all the same. The bezel is aesthetically one of the nicest I've ever seen. The case finishing and the caseback are both superb, and whilst I would have liked screw pins on the bracelet, other than that, it's very well made and it's extremely comfortable. Now that brings me to the end of this review, so if you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.